he's their best back. I mentioned over 1,000 yards last year and this year, and the company he joins, that's a good group, friends.
Yes.
Herschel, Nick, Noshawn, Sony Michel, and DeAndre Swift. They use all the clock again. DeAndre Swift, and he's got the first down, and he's got a bunch more. DeAndre Swift to the house, touchdown.
DeAndre Swift, correct me if I'm wrong, but he just feels like the guy, in my opinion, that everyone just kind of like, he's just there, but like nobody is like, seems like really excited about DeAndre Swift, at least from what I've noticed, at least on Twitter, fantasy Twitter, dynasty Twitter, what have you. He's just kind of the guy that's there, and I think most people have him in their top 3 or 4, but what are your thoughts on DeAndre Swift? Like, I feel like he's also a complete back, somebody that's heavily utilized out of the backfield as a pass catcher. I mean, he's somebody that they lined up in the slot and stuff like that. So I think he can kind of be moved all over the place. Now, people will talk about, he can't handle a full workload, but that's just silliness because that's just what Georgia does. That's what they've always done. He never played more than 500 offensive snaps, but at the same time, like I said, I mean, the dude is a monster, and I think somebody that people are kind of sleeping on a little bit.
Yeah, man, absolutely. This is something we do every single year. Like, Swift has been talked about as like the RB1 for the past year and a half at least, and then we get to this point, and all of a sudden it's like we've talked about him for too long. So he's getting like pushed down for that reason, which doesn't make any sense. As far as his limited, I guess, touches and snaps, and I guess he was never, if people are trying to ding him for not being the guy and kind of running that backfield, first think about the fact that as a true freshman, he was getting on the field whenever they had Sony Michel and Nick Chubb in that backfield. I mean, obviously Sony hasn't really worked out in the NFL, but when you want to talk about two of the best collegiate running backs we've seen in, the past couple of years, it's 2 of them on the same team, and Swift was still getting on the field as a true freshman. And then they just keep bringing in 5-star guys, 4 guys that are in the top 10, at the running back position as far as prospects go. So the fact that he doesn't have the kind of the wear and tear that a Jonathan Taylor has, I think is a plus. And truthfully, how many 90% touch workhorse backs do we have in the NFL at this point? It's the same thing, and I think that also plays into why we're not seeing, the talk about, because you look at some of these guys and you put them in a draft, 8 years ago, we're probably talking about 3, 4, 5, 6 of these guys going in the first round. Like, that just doesn't happen anymore, and I think it's because teams are more likely to, even if you're not using a true committee or a rotation, you're still limiting touches on most of these guys. So Swift, like I said, Swift to me just seems like the latest casualty, and we've been talking about him as the guy for so long that, like, all of a sudden everyone's like done talking about him. We just need new names thrown up there. I think he's, to me, the top 5 of this class. Put them in a bag, let me pull out a name. I'm going to be happy with any of them. And I think the NFL draft 2 weeks from now is really going to start to like set these guys apart a little bit. So for right now, they're all in one tier. Give me any of them, and I would be super happy at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a point there with that. And, similar to what we've seen with like Jerry Jeudy, right? Where he's kind of been that question guy, and then now we all of a sudden have to kind of change our mind on that. Or they don't have the same appeal as some of these other guys have, especially because you start putting in people that aren't paying as much attention to the college football game and everything else, and they start seeing something different. I will say with DeAndre Swift, I mean, if you look at some of his efficiency numbers, he was 37th in yards after contact, 59th in missed tackles. He was 19th in plays of 15 plus more yards. So I see some of that, but overall, like, I think he's still a complete running back and somebody that I definitely think is probably a lock to go in the second round, could go in the third, but going to the right team and the right system, I think DeAndre Swift is fine. And to be honest with you, like, I see a little Miles Sanders in his game, so I have no problem with DeAndre Swift either.
Swift with Fromm in the backfield. He'll get the carry. DeAndre Swift, and he's fast, and he's maybe gone. DeAndre Swift, touchdown.